With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
What a night it's going to be here on RaceSpotTV in the Precision Racing League GT3 Fixed Series. We've got the Sprint Series coming up as well later on tonight. We're racing at the Red Bull Ring. I'm Reese Gardner, Dylan Coyle with me in the commentary booth, and we are looking rather soaked in practice at least, and potentially in the race for the GT3 Fixed Series. Looking forward to this one, Dylan. It's certainly been fun seeing the iRacing weather system at play in this series and the challenges the drivers have been facing.
Yeah, absolutely. And this fixed race is going to be a bit unique. We're going to go from dry to what should be a wet weather type of race. The Sprint Series later on will be dry throughout. At least that's what we're seeing on our radar screens. But the Red Bull Ring is going to be a very quick lap for all these drivers. And we're in the final third of the season for both.
Yeah, indeed we are. Check out the schedule briefly. We've only got 2 rounds remaining after this one concludes. Mount Panorama is going to be next week, and then the Nürburgring Combined later on in the month. And tell you what, if there's going to be wet weather scheduled for the Nürburgring round, it's going to be something special. That track is so big. It has this reputation in real life of it being rainy on one side of the circuit, dry on the other, sometimes multiple times in one lap. So here's hoping that we get some of that interestingness when we get there on May 21st.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like ending any series at the Nürburgring is amazing. I'm just so excited for that. They're barely going to have laps to get used to the place, except if they decide to take all day to run some practice laps there. But it's one of the most challenging, if not I'd say the most challenging circuit in the world. It's called the Green Hell for a reason, Reese.
Yeah, certainly is. Well, let's check out how things stand coming into this round. The AM standings have Ross Sortino at the top, and it's a nice 17-point gap to Evan McKay, but Evan has a couple of top 5 finishes to Ross Sortino's 1. It looks like consistency has been key for Ross. Standings looking rather close between Creighton Carter, Waldo Walden, not to mention Colin McKenzie and Lucas Nguyen on the exact same amount of points. Michael Fowler also chasing Evan McKay for the top of the standings. If we look at the pro standings, well, it's also quite close for second. Jim Feliz is on top, but Tyler Graff and Tony Costello creeping in very close. Jared Keane finishing second at Sebring last week. Jim Feliz's teammate is going to be enjoying being in 4th at the moment. Felix Feliz, meanwhile, has to keep an eye out for Isria Osborne for that 5th spot. There's potential for a lot of jigging in these pro standings, and well, we'll have to wait and see how all of it works out with regards to the combined standings too. Sortino and McKay are 8th and 10th overall. And finally, when we look at the team standings, well, it looks like it's the SRT Yellow show at the moment. 74 points ahead of SRT Grey. Madworks a further 60-something points behind. Tell you what, Dylan, SRTE have this one on lockdown at the moment, but everything could change in just a few rounds.
Yeah, but I just don't see it changing whatsoever for SRTE Yellow, and obviously you're not going to see a team other than Yellow or SRTE Gray, I think, winning this championship. They've got that pretty much squarely in the bag. But you are right. Anything can happen. It would just take a immeasurably miraculous upset for Madworks or anybody else to step on up and take that top spot away.
Indeed. Well, we should take a moment to thank the sponsors of the Precision Racing League and us here at RaceSpotTV. Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products just using the Precision 5 coupon code at checkout on advancedsimracing.com. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code there too. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com, also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. Moradness.com, also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. MrHedge.co.uk, also on Facebook and Insta. And finally, get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Threads. Big thanks to all of the sponsors here of the Precision Racing League helping to make this happen, as we are in qualifying at the moment for the GT3 fixed series. And I tell you what, Dylan, looks like the rain is a-coming.
Yes, sir, it absolutely is. And right now, Ross Sortino has smoked the rest of the field. And obviously, as this rain does come in, you see there's a bit of a patch of dry on the surface right now. We get a look at the radar. On the bottom right side of your screen, conditions certainly changing minute by minute, lap by lap. Yeah, I don't know if it's possible for anybody to catch up to Sortino now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The session started in the dry, and yeah, so you see the first little flick of rain making its way across the circuit there. You set a time on the dry track early on in the session, and then it starts raining. Well, you can laugh all the way to the bank, really.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're going to see here. I mean, obviously someone can come out and turn in a fast lap, but look on the leaderboard right now. Everybody in the red, they're all showing some slower lap times on track right now. And with this race potentially going into the wet as it goes on, this is pretty much valuable practice for these drivers at this point.
Yeah, we are expecting that the race will start dry and then become wet as it goes on. A 35-minute race scheduled for this series. So, yeah, any track time you can get is worth it, I think. If the race session is expected to be a bit slippery like this, then just get out there. Doesn't matter if you're not improving your qualifying time. You're getting experience. You're knowing what to look out for.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I mean, even if you're racing in the dry, right, you still want to be out as long as possible. Oh, look at that. A little bit of a wiggle there. And
I believe that's Mark Kalin in the Ford GT going for a little bit of a squiggle.
Yeah, of course, Mark deciding to run that Ford GT and then take his car into the grass, letting some of the faster cars on a fast lap by right now. I mean, it's sunny, but it is wet on the track. It's going to be cool to see this iRacing weather system, how it works with the dry line that forms and how quickly the track goes to dry conditions. I mean, that's pretty much going to be carryover into the race session. So it will dry up for a little bit. It might start out damp as well. So very unique use of the weather system in this race.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for the drivers. You know, will they know how damp the track is when the session enters the race as the checkered flag flies, and we wait with bated breath to see who will be able to improve, if anyone. It's going to be tough to overcome that time from M leader Ross Sortino. Let's just keep our eyes peeled for these final laps to be finished as we check out the number 80 making its way across the top of the hill down into Jochen Rindt curve. The final two turns of this track, which are certainly difficult in the dry, let alone the wet.
Yeah, these final two corners, you got to carry a lot of speed, and it's very easy to get an off track there with how I don't want to say easy going, but how the curb feels on the outside there. It's important to get a lot of speed and use the entirety of it on the left side to get a run going up the hill into turn one.
Well, Koen de Gale here, who had some difficulties at Sebring last week. We'll certainly be hoping that he can hold on to fourth place. Excellent job to get up there while the session was still dry, and it looks like most of the dry had gone away through the last couple of turns, but that lap will be invalidated. Regan Chandler in the BMW. Not seeing many BMWs out there. It seems that, you know, the likes of the Porsche and the Mercedes and the Lamborghini are quite popular, not to mention the Ferrari. The BMW, a little bit of an ugly duckling in the GT3 class now, but we've still got drivers dedicated to it. Doesn't look like any improvement there for the number 18, which means we can go through this very expansive grid for PRL GT3 Fixed. Ross Sortino, AM class leader, is on pole position alongside Tyler Graff. Isria Osborne and Koen de Gale will take up our second row, with William Fenson and Felix Feliz starting out of 5th and 6th. Jim Feliz, the Pro Championship leader, is going to start alongside Joey Costello on the 4th row. McKay and Feliz's teammate Jared Keane will round out the top 10, and it's Sean Provost and yet another SRT yellow car, Brett Thurman, rounding out the top 12.
Yeah, SRTE Yellow doing very solid in qualifying there. Andrew Venaro for Riley Racing in P13 with Nathan Jennings alongside in row 7. Andrew Trickett and Jason Finch in row 8. Tony Costello and Francis Parent in your first 9 rows with Lucas Nien, Dale Peterson, Christopher Rhines, Ryan Chandler, Pete Mejia, and Nicholas Johnson, your top 24 qualifiers.
The Ford rep, Mark Kalin, starting alongside Ian Cabana with Sully Sard and Jay Steffi, 27th and 28th. Top 30 rounded out by Michael Fowler and David Morse. Then we move on to Regan Chandler, who we just saw completing a few more laps in qualifying alongside Creighton Carter, Matt Hilton and David Bush on the next row. Robert Jeffries and Dave Peterson will round out our top 36.
Scott Jeffries and Quincy Carter, along with Carlos Acano and Kevin Bergquist, your 40 drivers to set a qualifying time. Joseph Carnes and Sean Mulholland, 41st and 42nd. They did not set times in qualifying. We'll wait to see if they join the 42-car starting grid. 35 minutes here at the Red Bull Ring, and they're getting ready to go here, Reese.
Yeah, they are all waiting with bated breath behind the iRacing safety car as it prepares to roll away. Just a few seconds left on the grid timer. Short formation lap as per usual. All we got to do is negotiate the final sector and we can go racing. And currently the weather is pretty good. The track is mostly dry is what it says in session. But yeah, I saw it. I saw it too. Oh dear. Yeah, it's basically the same as qualifying. There is a bunch of rain moving across the circuit at the moment. Yikes. So looks there. If drivers have jumped onto the grid on dry tires, they are going to have a tough time in just a couple of laps. Look at that. The rain's going across the hairpin section of the circuit.
Oh man, I feel like if the rain held out just a little bit longer or the dry in the track continues to hold for just a tiny bit, can they make it to a point where they cross over to wet tires with the fuel that they also need to get? I don't think that's the right idea to start in the dry.
Yeah, so we see that Graf and Osborne have gone on to wet tyres. Same for Jim Feliz, Nathan Jennings, and a few other drivers further down the field. But out of the final corner we are already, and Ross Sortino has gone quite early indeed. He has gotten a major run over Tyler Graf, and everyone else has been running nice and side by side. It's already going to be 3 wide on the way into turn 1. Isria Osborne, William Fenson, and Kern de Gale sorting themselves out for 3rd overall as the lights come on and the rain is officially here. Everyone on dry tyres is going to be absolutely shaking in their boots.
Yeah, I have no idea what these drivers who decided to stay out on dry tires for this race were thinking. They're pretty much going to have to all come in this time by, but hey, it's all part of the learning process here with the iRacing weather system.
Kern de Gale has spun around at the hairpin as everyone is struggling for grip out there on this very wet track. Big cramp at the rear of the field, but it's the opposite problem for the likes of Tyler Graf, who's trying to chase down Ross Sortino. Remember, Graf is on wet tires. Oh, another spin. Looks like Sean Provost. Also seeing that Jared Keane is losing positions. Keane 4th in the championship and podiumed last round. It's disastrous for him at the first round too.
My question is, how will these drivers on dry tires right now face these corners? It's going to be the faster ones, the final 2 especially coming up. That's going to be so difficult unless they dive into pit lane.
Yeah. Kalen also around as Sortino immediately goes for the pits, and looks like all the dry runners are coming in as well. Oh lordy, this is massive.
I mean, it's a missed opportunity at a whole bunch of points for a driver like Sortino. William Fenson stays out. Interesting.
I don't know if that's going to be the right decision. It looks like Felix Feliz has decided to stay out as well on the dries. Venaro, Thurman, Trickett, and Finch all in the top 10. Oh my goodness. This is going to be difficult for the drivers who've decided to stay out on dries for one more lap because the rain is intensifying.
Just not the move. You're already going to lose so much time by staying out here. You should have come into pit lane right there. Watch out. That's Fenson.
It is. Oh, goodness. Fenson trying his best to hold on here. and you see that Felix Feliz in the bright green Porsche at the bottom of the screen on dry tires himself. Felix and Jim.
Oh, man.
Oh no. William Fenson gets into the
no.
wall, and a Porsche spinning behind him. It looks like that's...
synchronized. Oh, no.
Yeah. Andrew Trickett. Oh, dear. It's an absolute parking lot down at the Roush hairpin. This is... oh, dear. I'm not too sure what to make of this. There's just so much chaos happening out on track at the moment. Oh, yeah. Horrible rejoin indeed.
And another synchronized potential spin, a reverse into the wall, horrible rejoin again. This is
Get
just
into the pits,
brutal.
guys. Yeah, get into the pits, for goodness sake. This is tough to watch. Lots of struggling going on here as into the pits we come for Felix Feliz. And is Jim's still out there on dry tires? Jim Feliz.
No, Jim's on wet right now.
Oh,
Felix
he is?
Feliz
Okay.
came into the pits with the dry tires on. I imagine everybody else who it was on dry tires to start this race are going to be changing into the wets right now. Perhaps the dumbest decision they could have made going into this race was staying out on dry tires, but even worse than that for me, staying out for lap 2 on dry tires.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the majority of our field have decided to switch. I'm seeing that Sully Sard has decided to stay out on dry tires. The number 79 here. Let's see how much trouble he has as the wetness of the track is increasing tenfold, and you see just how little pace he has through the hairpin. He's crawling.
He's trying to find any bit of dry track he possibly can, but he can't. There is no dry track anymore, and nothing's forming because the rain continues to fall down harder, and it will continue to fall down hard for the rest of this race, we believe. But up front, we do have a battle for the lead of this race. 3 drivers involved in it: Tyler Graff, Isaiah Osborne, and Jim Feliz. Top 3 separated by 7/10.
Yeah, this is a nice battle between these two. Hearing that someone's just wrecked out there on track, and it looks like it's Sully Sard. Oh dear, and no surprises either. It's happened at the Roush hairpin, which is apparently a favourite spot for drivers to spin around. And oh dear, Regan Chandler as well as no, that's not Regan Chandler, that's Ryan Chandler. My apologies. He's having a lot of trouble keeping control of that Mercedes. He just wants to get into the pits, but he's had to tow back to pit road. Oh goodness me.
It's just... the hits keep on coming for all the drivers in this field. I mean, it's going to continue to be that way, I think, until the very end of the race. And Osborne, look at that, tried to go on the attack, but immediately had to go on the defensive right there in turn 3 because Jim Feliz is on his tail.
He is indeed. Isaiah Osborne sat in 8th in the championship coming into this round, and at the very least he'll be able to gain points over Felix Feliz, who started the race on dries. May be able to overcome Jared Keane as well if Keane can't recover. So this is a potential big points opportunity for that Audi in the middle of this pack, but the Porsches in front and behind are the top 2 in the championship. Jim Feliz in the lead, Tyler Graff in 2nd. They just need to hold station and try to find a way through.
Yeah, but it's going to be difficult to make moves in the wet. The good thing for Osborne and Feliz is that they can be patient. There is still 28 minutes and change to go in this race. No need to make an unfortunate mistake now getting through a driver, and there's a mistake from Quincy Carter into the wall and towed into the pits.
I've never seen anyone that far out before. I think that might have been at turn 1. That's a bit insane there for the Mad Works car. But we'll keep our eyes peeled on Tyler Graff as he's gone narrow into the first turn. We'll get a replay of what happened here. And it wasn't at turn 1. It was at the turn 3 hairpin. Just, messing up the brakes and straight on into the wall. The car just wasn't slowing down.
A rough impact right there, and slowing as much as they can into turn 3 again. I mean, Osborne is right on the tail of Graf and had a much better run coming through the exit of the corner into 4. I think we know who's going to get the position here on the inside.
Yeah, potentially, but in the wet and even in the dry, you can hold the outside at this turn. Let's see if Graf can do it. Oh, not quite. There goes Israel Osborne through to the lead of the race.
Both of them got squirrely on the exit, trying to get the power down. It's just so hard to do that with these cars right now. And here's another interesting thing as they have to deal with some traffic. A spin right in front of the leaders. Almost got into them. Thankfully, the gravel area is right there.
That was Carlos Ocano down in 36th spot, 37th now, who's gone for a massive spin. Evidently still having trouble there, and it looks like he's on the dries. He did pit, but my timing is showing that he stayed on the dries. This is what happened to him earlier. He's trying to stay out there, but the rain's only going to get worse. He needs to get in the lane.
This just doesn't make sense to me at all, and now he will go down pit lane. I guess he was trying to I mean, okay, in one way I do kind of understand it, right? As we see this battle with Christopher Rhines, Nathan Jennings is way in front of the road. This is actually Rhines, Perrant, and Mejia. I understand it in a way. He's trying to minimize the time lost by coming into the pits once instead of twice in this race, because he will have to go in for fuel. Rhines can't get the power down. Perrant is going to have a good run here, but stalls out.
Indeed. The thing about Ocano was he had already pitted once, from what I could see. Yeah, he spent 2 laps out there on the dries, then he came in and continued out on the dries, so I don't know if he forgot that. Meanwhile, battle going on there, around the outside of the hairpin. Francis Perrant, that's a line that you often see. The outside line through the hairpin is a little flatter, and especially in the wet, gives you a massive traction advantage. Doesn't look like it's going to be fought too hard by Christopher Rhines. Just fall back in a line as they make their way into Roush. Pete Mejia, meanwhile, he is right on the back of the BMW.
Perrant went really defensive there on the apex to keep Rhines from getting any run on him. Mejia now right into the rear of Rhines. This is a good battle for a top 5 position. The lead, by the way, it's now over a second between Osborne and Graf.
Yeah, Israel Osborne, once he got past, has been looking pretty nice. Jay Steffi, meanwhile, I'm noticing falling down the timing order. It looks like there's been a big problem for the number 247 as this battle continues. That is very deep indeed for the 32 of Pete Mejia, and he makes contact with Christopher Rhines on the way into Jochen Rindt. Easy does it. Regan Chandler taking advantage of that little back and forth between them, and it looks like Rhines has been left out to dry.
No pun intended.
Yeah, there's no chance of drying out your clothes if you hang them out now.
Yeah, not at all, as you see. Porsche, BMW. It's a good battle right here between these GT3 machines. And up at the top of the field, it's an Audi. There's no Audis until you go all the way back into around 15th position. It's actually 17th, so... Porsche's all in the top 6 except for the leader.
Indeed. We're hearing that it's internet issues for Jay Steffi. That's why he's falling down the order. That's a shame for him. Also seeing David Morse has had a big issue. He's gotten into the gravel in his Ferrari at the hairpin, but he's managed to recover, presumably without damage. Yes, he has, but he did have a bit of a wild ride across the inside of the corner, and that would have been scary for anyone coming through.
Yeah, that does not bode well for that car's suspension at all.
No.
Goodness me, those cars aren't made to make leaps.
Yeah, no, they're not. Firm suspension in these GT3 machines. Big bounce across the any-cut curb and just managed to avoid the wall.
Yeah, and by save, I mean not hit the wall.
Yes, indeed.
We saw some blue, by the way, in the sky, a breakup of the clouds.
Yeah, there is a tiny little break, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be much of a break. Francis Perrault, meanwhile, he was battling for the top 6, and he has unfortunately gone for a ride at Jochen Rindt Curve. Manages to recover and get back on the racetrack safely, but that's going to sting. He's now all the way down in 10th.
Yeah, Perrault was running in P5 when that happened. We'll take another look, and it almost looks like it's upon shifting or something, because it just broke to the right.
Yeah, I think he ran across the white line, denoting the curb and the racetrack. Because remember, those painted areas of the racetrack get extra slippery in wet conditions.
Yeah, and if anybody is curious as to, well, if it's slippery, why'd he go all the way to the right? Well, think about it this way. Left side's on a slippery part. You try and apply the brakes, and the traction is all on the right side of the track. Just barely, it looks like, on the paint. So the car just kind of pulls around to the right side there when all that traction is on the right and under braking.
Indeed. Well, David Mawson, the number 21, he's having a tough race right now. Still up 17 spots. He's one of the drivers that started on the wet tire, which turns out was the smartest decision of all. Yeah, still 17 places up from where he started. He's going to have to tune out some of this behavior however he can. Looks like it happened on the exit of the hairpin. Just spun up the wheels, and then the traction control kicked in. There was nothing he could do.
It's a bit of a embarrassing moment for him if he's feeling that in the car. It's not necessarily embarrassing, right? But it feels that way. It's such a lazy spin at a low speed that you can't get the car completely turned to the left without hitting the wall. It's just an unfortunate feeling. And now we've got a good battle for 12th because of some of the mistakes of these drivers. And remember, a lot of these drivers, they came into the pits when they were on dry tires to start this race. David Morse is the only one that started the race on the wet weather tires. Everybody else has one pit stop here.
Indeed, and maybe that extra lap or so that they have over Morse in terms of tyre life will work out for them later on. The wet tyres are obviously softer than a dry compound, so if you drive them for too long, they end up wearing down a bit faster. We'll have to wait and see how that works out in the last 20 minutes of the race. We will still be owed a pit stop from all of the drivers that started on the dry tyre. There will be a pit stop for fuel somewhere along the line, and remains to be seen whether or not the drivers that transition to wets a couple laps in have to come in for another stop as well. We don't know if they managed to get the fuel they needed to get to the end.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a little bit too tight for them to make it till the end of this race. Jim Feliz, heavy on the brakes there, came very close to running into the back of Tyler Graff. Osborne is way up the road, 3.5 seconds ahead now. I don't know, Reese. It is getting a bit brighter out there. I know the rain is obviously still coming down, but could this potentially lead to a dry line forming at all on the circuit?
There's potential. There's a bit of potential for that, but the rain is still very much coming down, and I'm checking out the radar, and it doesn't look good. Yeah, small breaks, but not enough for a dry line to form.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and the entire track covered under some deep green rain right there. So, yeah, there is sun in the distance, but doesn't really matter. It's going to still come down, and it's not going to relent in the next 18.5 minutes. And so it's Sortino around. This is big for the AM class.
It is indeed. Sortino started on overall pole position. Our current AM leader is Nathan Jennings, who's a long way up the road. So Sortino's going to have to make up a little bit of extra time somewhere else there. He's in 17th now on his lonesome. He was closer to the battle here, but that's the reason why he spun. Just a bit too hard into Jochen Rindt Curve, bumped the Porsche, and it looks like the momentum transfer spun him around.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and still a lot of race left, but you can't make mistakes like that when you're running for a championship. Look at that. Tyler Graff bit squirrely on the brakes heading into the final corner, side by side between he and Jim Feliz.
Yeah, this could be Jim Feliz's chance to get into second here at turn 1. They've got lapped cars ahead of them. Take it easy on the way into turn 1. Feliz a little bit later on the brakes, pulls it up nicely, but it's all about the exit. Will Tyler Graf be able to stick in the slipstream and potentially get back past Feliz at the hairpin? This is going to be a tough move to make. Feliz is going to protect the inside, and of course running offline is expected in the wet. That's where the grip is, but Feliz maintaining the position. Just get on the power, stay off those slippery curves, Jim.
So if there's anything for this battle right here, is David Busch has gone down pit lane. Feliz and Graf are 1-2 in the championship right now. It's these two drivers who are fighting for this championship, with Feliz up 28 points with 3 rounds left. It's not a big enough, or it's not a small enough gap for a Graf second and Feliz third to do much of anything, but it could be big at the end of the day.
Yeah, certainly could. I mean, this is an excellent points opportunity for Tyler Graf, but I think if he were to think purely selfishly about his championship chances, he'd prefer that Feliz makes a mistake and finishes down very low in the field. Look at this battle, meanwhile. David Morse. Yeah, David Morse right in the middle of the Hornet's Nest, and it looks like he's about to get stung here by Felix Feliz. Remember, Felix, one of the first drivers to come in off the dry tire, but he's on the inside at Roush. That's not where you want to be. Look at that, the Ferrari keeping the grip off the rubber. When it gets wet, rubber gets slick, and that's why you see drivers on the outside line doing well.
Hornets Morse? Morse?
Maybe.
No, not feeling that one.
Put a rain check on that.
Ooh, I like that one. What?
I wasn't even thinking about that. Jeez. All right. In any case, looks like Felix Feliz is going to be facing off against Brett Thurman now. Hasn't been able to make his way past David Morse, but Morse evidently on the back foot here. Not the best run out of Jochenrindt curve. Hearing a disconnect for Joey Costa. No. Ooh,
that's Francis
okay.
Perron. No, Morse is around.
Oh, lordy. What on earth happened there? That took me by surprise. Morse hitting the wall on the outside run into turn 1. Inside, sorry. He just got across the curb. And as we know, curbs are very slippery.
I was about to say that Morse was making that machine as wide as possible. What were we just talking about in the final 2 corners? You get your left sides on the paint, and then all the grip is on the right side, and it just snaps you over, and that's exactly what happened to David Morse.
Yeah, big shame for David Morse. He's going to be carrying that damage for some time. This was the view from Feliz. Oh, man. I mean, all Feliz had to do was stay on the brakes for turn 1. That could have been a lot worse.
He didn't even really have to react. He just had to take his normal line, and Morse just washed up the track, literally.
Well, David Morse is now down in 16th, which is still a massive improvement on where he started. But when he comes back into the pits, he's going to have to get damage repaired as easy does it. This is the battle for 19th behind the overall race leader. Isria Osborne has lapped these two gentlemen, Dale Peterson and Jason Finch. Looked a bit leery there through the hairpin, and I'm noticing that the track is darkening quite a bit now, so this is making things even more complicated for the drivers.
Yeah, but you can see a bit of a line forming through some of the corners as we watch this battle. Felix Feliz just a 10th ahead of Brett Thurman, who's going to stay right up on the gearbox through the end, and as the storm takes out our cameras for the time being, we'll have to ride on board.
Indeed we will. Feliz trying his best to make his way out here. And this is our way on into the final couple of corners. Just Just got to be gentle on your way out here as the number 69 gets a slightly better exit. It's defensive now for Felix Feliz.
Well, we'll see how good he's able to keep that defense up because Thurman is pressuring entirely as we come down to around 12 and a half minutes to go here in this race. And, oh man, what a good battle we're having all throughout the field between multiple sets of drivers. By the way, we were watching that second and third place battle in Feliz and Graf. That is completely undone itself when Feliz got past Graf. Now 2.5 second advantage for Jim Feliz, the championship leader. Isaiah Osborne 5.5 seconds up the road from Jim Feliz. So in terms of battles, it's kind of lessened in the top 8, in the top 9, if you will, but there's some good battling going on for a top 10 spot and all the way just outside of it.
Indeed, 10th, 11th, and 12th on screen at the moment. Felix Feliz has managed to gap Brett Thurman, crucially. Those two were involved in a hard fight for a short amount of time that looks like Feliz has managed to get a nice rhythm going. Tony Costello in the Audi is starting to loom in the background. He ran 0.5 of a second faster than Brett Thurman did on the previous lap. So keep an eye out for this trio to get compressed potentially. Feliz, nice and wide through the hairpin and getting the traction down nicely. You see how he's changing his line on the exit there. He went from the outside to the inside on corner exit. He's searching for grip. Less rubber, less slick off the racing line.
Yeah, it's a very weird aspect of wet weather racing where you do want to go offline to find that grip, as Isaiah Osborne has come down pit lane for a little bit of fuel to make it to the end of this race with 10.5 minutes to go in it.
Indeed, and everyone who started on the dry tyres is going to have to do that, and I would presume in the last few minutes of the race, the drivers that pitted early for wets will have to come into the pits as well, so the order's going to be jumbled up quite a bit. Isaiah Osborne comes out in 4th place ahead of Pete Mejia. Nathan Jennings, the car ahead of him, and the number 78 looks like a lap down there. So Osborne coming out without much fuss, and he'll be good from here.
Yeah, I think everybody is going to have to come down pit lane regardless of when they pitted. I mean, 10 minutes to go, and we saw Osborne head down pit lane. I'm assuming that Jim Feliz, Tyler Graf, the rest of the bunch will come down as well now, meaning that with these lap times, if you survive 6-5 or so laps at the beginning on the same tires as McKay, evasive action.
Oh, goodness, that was so
and he still
close.
might get the spot.
Yeah, he might. Narrow exit for the BMW. The Porsche with more momentum down the straight. Got to be gentle on your way into this turn, though. Looks like he just doesn't have it. The 91 trying his best to get it done here, but the BMW holding strong on the way through Roush.
I love wet weather racing. Nobody knows what to do.
It too. Yeah, I have no idea. It looks like just a little brake lock up there, potentially micro locks. These cars do have anti-lock brakes, but it can come to the wrong result for you as Graf and Feliz both pit for a bit of extra fuel, maybe bolt on a fresh set of rubber if they are able to have the time. Osborne's going to move on through back to the effective race lead, but Nathan Jennings will continue on here. Jennings actually pitted 7 laps ago, so I wonder if he actually has what it takes to get to the end here.
That is a curious thing. I'm not seeing that on my timing screen, but
yeah, I saw it on my timing screen. It might have been a little messed up for me. I have sorting out a couple of technical issues on my end.
Remember, the storm did roll through our broadcast booth as well.
Oh, it did. It absolutely did. It's rolled through my PC as well, apparently, but still have the production feed up, still looking at Pete Major, Evan McKay, and Christopher Rhines battling over 5th spot here, and it's looking like it's getting more chaotic with 2 more cars approaching from behind.
Yeah, usually this was the battle for 10th, but now it is the battle for 5th position in this race. Rhines has been kind of just chilling around that spot most of this race, but has a chance to get back to the top 5 after making a couple mistakes earlier in the running here as Nathan Jennings heads down pit lane. So he'll give up the race lead. Isaiah Osborne will head back in front. Jim Feliz has closed in a little bit. It's just around 3.5 seconds instead of 5.5 seconds that it just was. I don't think there's enough time, but...
Yeah, potentially, as off the run out of the pits goes Nathan Jennings, and he'll rejoin potentially down the order. Top 5 potentially on the cards for him, as into the pits we see more cars coming. This is now crunch time, Dylan. It's time to see whether or not you can do that splash and dash and get yourself to the end of the race. A lot of these drivers have raced well in the interim, but now we have to see if they can contend with a bit of extra fuel load late on, with the track still soaking wet.
I'm going to say that it's been crunch time for a fair amount of drivers in this race, and by that I mean into the barrier and into the wall, but metaphorically speaking, yes, it is crunch time.
Yeah, Robert Jeffries on the Zoom wall for tonight, and he's got quite a battle on his cards at the moment. This is a bit further down in the field, outside the top 20. He's trying his best to gain here on the Ferrari, but you see just how smooth you have to be in these wet conditions. You're driving on a grease trap pretty much, and so you need to be super careful. You got to plan out every single maneuver you make.
Yeah, it's got to be pre-planned. At basically the exit of each corner, you've got to plan the next set of corners, and obviously that's racing in general and where you position your car, but it just matters so much more. Every small movement of the throttle and brake pedal matters so much more. You see the concentration and the focus here. Not easy to make a move work, but maybe getting it done. Nope.
Oh, around he goes, and you can see Robert Jeffries frustrated there. He has to come back on track on the inside of the hairpin to get going again. That was his chance at a position in the top 20 gone. That's a real shame. Meanwhile, Felix Feliz pitting for the second time here. Remember that Feliz was one of the drivers to start on the dries. He ran the first 2 laps on the dries, and now he has to get that extra fuel in to get to the end. Where is he going to come out?
It will be interesting to see. Felix Feliz just coming out right now in the midst of this battle for a top 9, top 8 spot. He'll come out just in 10th behind Brett Thurman, barely.
Looks like a few more of the drivers who started on the dries will be making their way in. I see Dale Peterson on his way into the pits in the number 6 Audi. And I'll be expecting that the likes of McKay and Thurman will jump their way in as well. Here's the view on board from Isaiah Osborne, who's regained the overall race lead, currently leading by nearly 4 seconds over Jim Feliz. It's been a fantastic race from the number 7.
It has been fantastic for Isaiah Osborne. This is the form we're so used to seeing from him, especially at the end of last GT3 Fixed Series season in the Precision Racing League. It hasn't necessarily been the season he's wanted, but championship is not necessarily over, but the bell is ringing, especially with how well Jim Feliz and Tyler Graff have raced here tonight.
I'm noticing something. We've hit a bit of a dry patch in the rain, and it's stopped for the time being. So this is potential for a dry line to start forming. I saw traces of it on the exit of the hairpin. So yeah, I think we might have a tiny bit of reprieve before the rain comes back, potentially in the last 2 minutes of the race. At least the drivers have the sun out, and they'll be able to see a little better.
That's very true, but you do have to wonder if there's any remaining time in the last 2 laps of this race where maybe the tires start to overheat ever so slightly and gives some advantage to others. I mean, I barely see that happening, but, you know, conditions can change very quickly when the sun is shining.
Indeed they can. Well, 2 minutes now on the clock, and Isria Osborne still keeping that lead from Jim Feliz. Looks like Feliz is being a little more aggressive on the way into the corners, but Osborne focusing on exits, and that's bringing his advantage back to him nicely. Drivers further down the field pitting: Andrew Trickett, Ian Cabana, Kevin Bergquist. They're drivers that are outside the top 20 now, and Cabana completing his pit stop, the earliest of them all. Looks like very short pit stops for these guys, about 5 seconds, which is really all they need to get to the end.
Yeah, I mean, what? It's just a splash and dash, 2 laps of fuel, maybe just 1 is all you need, but certainly it's worth going into the pits instead of being stuck out on track while the white flag is waving and losing all that position.
Indeed, here's Sully Sard and Andrew Trickett. Trickett having just come out of the pits, and look at the advantage he's got on the exit there. Sully Sard has been out there for 15 laps on those wet tyres, and Trickett will do very well there to get the traction down and move himself up 1 position. Of course, these guys are all a lap down now. David Morse in 16th is the last car on the lead lap right now, and it looks like he's about to give that up to Isria Osborne as he's going to come up to the white flag.
Yeah, this was such a solid run for Osborne. Still has 1 more lap to negotiate. These corners don't get squirrely, especially with lap traffic ahead. He's flashing the headlights and not really getting any help from this lap traffic. It's an uncomfortable position to be in. Is that Ross Sortino? No, that's Sortino's teammate, I believe. Yikes.
Yeah, a little bit tight there for Isria Osborne in turn 1, but David Morse gave him room, and we'll move on through. Next lap down cars to come up to, potentially Ross Sortino, who's just spun out of the hairpin. He's got to be careful on the re-entry. He's sprawled across the racetrack right now, but he does get out of the way just in time for our leaders to come through.
Yeah, it's a really, really solid job by Osborne there. I mean, that is a harrowing situation in the wet, trying to get around some lap traffic. Doesn't matter where you are on the track, it's still another car to have to negotiate with. As you see, that line comes off of that apex. That's a clear dry patch there.
Yeah, absolutely is, and well, we're now getting to the point where you kind of want to stick to that, maybe run towards the edge of it just to keep the tyres cool, but it's come all too late. We are on the final lap of the race, and Isria Osborne just has a few more turns to negotiate to take an emphatic win here in PRL GT3 Fixed. Just up the hill, over the crest, and through the double right of Jochen Rindt curve. Careful on the entry. He's as controlled as ever, nice and smooth in the number 7 Audi. Congratulations to Isria Osborne. Crosses the line in first place, wins the Red Bull Ring round of PRL GT3 Fixed.
Yeah, what a solid run right there as we see Tony Costello battling for 13th with Michael Fowler. It's the closest battle on track. Evan McKay still just 6/10 in front of Brett Thurman as well.
Yeah, so there's still a few battles to work out in this field. Costello running a little narrow and a little deep, very deep. Michael Fowler might just get it done here. On the run up to the double left, they'll be side by side, but Fowler is going to have the advantage around the outside here. Costello goes deep again. He's battling hard to try and keep this position.
Yeah, he's doing everything he possibly can. Costello only has 2 more corners after this one to get around to hold this position. It's going to be an absolute lunge from Fowler here.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Evan McKay is going to hold off Brett Thurman further up the field. It didn't look like there was much of a fight going on between them, but here we go. Will Michael Fowler get it done out of the final corner? Will Tony Costello make a mistake? No. The Audi is straight as an arrow coming out of the final corner, and that will settle the battle for 14th and 13th. Last position on the lead lap is 15th at the moment, and it is Andrew Venaro. But, I mean, what can you say about this guy? Isaiah Osborne putting on an absolute masterclass in the wet.
Yeah, that's a clinic right there for Osborne. It's not a dominating win by amount of time in front, but once Osborne got the lead, he just ran away with it. Very impressive from Isaiah. There was some pressure in behind if he made any mistakes, but Osborne, what a victory for him. I think he's going to be loving this one, his first of Season 2.
Indeed. Well, results are ready, and we'll go through them here. Isaiah Osborne by 4 seconds over Jim Felice, who will maintain the championship lead. Tyler Graf, championship P2, will finish in 3rd. Nathan Jennings, 4th overall, wins the AM class. Pete Mejia, Regan Chandler, and Creighton Carter rounding out the top 7. And then it's McKay, Thurman, and Felix Felice, our top 10.
Continue moving through the order with 11th, Christopher Ryan, Sean Provost. That's a close battle between those two at the end there in the BMW and the Lambo. Tony Costello, Michael Fowler, and Andrew Venaro, your top 15. All of them, the only cars on the lead lap. It's a short lap here at the Red Bull Ring, but it felt much longer in the rain. David Morris, Dale Peterson, Scott Jeffries, Andrew Trickett, Ian Cabana, top 20. Reese.
Indeed, Robert Jeffries a lap down, the same for Lucas Nguyen, Jared Keane, Jay Steffi, and Sully Sard. They're drivers that would have been hoping for a bit better out of this round, with Kalen finishing a lap down in the only forward in the field. Nicholas Johnson, Kevin Berquist, David Bush, and Jason Finch rounding out the top 30. And we're getting into retirement territory now, Dylan. These are all the drivers that didn't have a good night.
Sortino, that's such a brutal way for this race to have gone for Ross Sortino. Sitting on the pole, had the wrong tires, and it just got from bad to worse to non-existent for him. Finishing 31st, Francis Parent, Costello, Chandler, Dave Peterson, Carlos Ocano, Quincy Carter, Kern DeGaulle, William Fenson, who was one of the last drivers to come in. He came in on lap 2 at the end of it for dry or wet tires, I should say. And Matt Hilton, your top 40, reached only a couple more that actually went through and finished it. It's just brutal.
Yeah, Sean Mulholland and Joseph Carnes, 22 laps down. My goodness, what a chaotic race it was here in PRL GT3 Fixed. We can go into our driver interviews now, and first on the roster is, of course, our race winner, Isaiah Osborne. Congratulations, mate. Looked like it was a lovely drive for you out there, but it must have been stressful having to make the decision, do I start on dries or wets?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't come out, to grid probably to like the last possible second because I wasn't sure what to do. And my nephew, he runs open, so he was like, man, just go ahead and go on wets and just go with the flow. And on the first lap, I was like, it's over. But coming around that second lap, yeah, the rain started pouring, and looks like it was the right decision to make.
Indeed. Yeah, it seemed like you had a bit of a battle going on with Jim Felice and Tyler Graf early on. What do you think was the secret to unlocking the pace?
Honestly, I have no idea. I only drove in the rain here once, and I was super slow, so I just said forget it. And so yeah, my pace overall, I mean, I think it helped to be driving the Audi. That seems to be the best car to drive in the rain right now. So yeah, I mean, that's all I can say about the pace.
Indeed. Well, you were fifth in the championship or lower, I believe, coming into this round. Still a fantastic points opportunity for you coming into the last 2 rounds of the season. So congratulations once again, Azria, and we'll hopefully get a chance to chat to you next week.
Alrighty, thank you.
Azria Osborne winning the race there. Second on the road, Dylan, was Jim Feliz. He's going to join you now.
Yeah, Jim did such a solid job overtaking Tyler Graff around midway through that race, and Jim will get a chance to hear from you on that move. You two fighting in the championship for the overall points lead, and it felt like one wrong move from either of you could have spelled disaster for each given driver for the end of this championship, but both of you finished second and third. It still is going to go down to the final couple of races. Overall, I'm sure you're happy with us.
Yeah, I mean, great race with Israel and Tyler. You know, they were both so quick in the dry. I was kind of hoping for the rain and lucked out there. And yeah, had a great race with Tyler. You know, in terms of the move, he was quick. I was, you know, doing my best to stay with him, stay out of trouble behind him in the spray there. And I think he just got a little wide on that final corner. It's kind of the low point on the track, so there's a lot of standing water that tends to pool there, and I think he just got into that, and maybe hydroplane couldn't get the power down, and got a good run on him and was able to get the job done in turn 1 pretty cleanly. So, you know, wanted it to be clean, just knowing what was on the line there, but, you know, overall, really good race. Great drive by Israel and Tyler.
I feel like, you know, with 2 races left, obviously, we're looking at 2 of the most iconic racetracks in the world and 2 of the most difficult tracks with that in mind. What's the key to securing this championship here?
You know, Israel and Tyler and a couple other guys, Tony Costello, Jared Keane, have been, you know, staying in the mix, Felix Felice as well, and so I think just being consistent, you know, having a good finish in the last 2, and especially the last race at the Nürburgring, where there's, you know, there's no more drops at this point, essentially, for me, because I've already had 1 bad result, so just got to keep it consistent.
All right, Jim. Well, who makes it work for you in the PRL?
You know, there's a lot of people I think to thank. You know, just really appreciate my team. Get a lot of good practice in with those guys that, you know, helps me be fast on race day. And as always, you know, the support of my friends, family, always good to have them watching along.
Jim, congratulations on second place. Best of luck next week.
All right. Thanks, Dylan.
All right, Jim with a second place finish here at the Red Bull Ring. And Reese, I know that you're alongside the final finisher on the podium, and quite a race between he and Jim Feliz. Tyler Graff's with you.
Indeed, Tyler, second in the championship, and I believe remaining so coming out of this round. You certainly gave Jim a good race there.
Yeah, I knew he had the pace on me. I did a little iRacing stalking this week and saw he was running the Endurance Series, and they were in the rain the entire time, so I kind of thought he had a little bit more seat time than I did, and I just tried to keep him behind me as long as I could. Once he got the run, it wasn't worth the fight, because it would have just slowed us both down and maybe cost him a shot at getting Azraeus. So yeah, it was a fun race. I wish I would have had some more seat time in the rain. I was kind of hoping it would stay dry, but the race became quite a bit more straightforward when it started raining.
Yeah, certainly did. Must have been difficult negotiating those lapped cars at the end, especially with how many people were suffering spins.
Yeah, and I wasn't really racing anybody, so there wasn't really a reason to push the issue. If they didn't look like they were letting me go, I just didn't go for it. And that whole last stint, once Jim checked out from me, I just kind of just explored the track and tried to see where I could find some more grip, and had a couple oopsie moments that I got lucky I had a good buffer. So P3 is good. It's where I hope to be every week, so I'll take it, and we'll I don't know where we are next week, but hopefully we'll run well there next week.
We will be racing at Mount Panorama, Tyler, so before we let you go, just your thoughts on that place.
It's a good track for me. Tracks that are kind of reservable street tracks, or street tracks, where you don't really have the runoff and there's no playing around with with track limits and it's just kind of a straight up fight between two walls, I seem to do well. So I hope that goes well. I am hoping that doesn't rain for that one. That might be kind of interesting, but I don't know. If that's what happens, it happens.
All right, big thanks for joining us, Tyler. Congratulations on your podium. We'll see you next week. All right, that's going to be Tyler Graff. And then finally, Dylan, we've got our AM class winner, Nathan Jennings, in the server with us. A fantastic race there.
Yeah, fantastic race for Nathan Jennings. And Nathan, you went out long, you stayed long on track, held the overall lead of the race for a lap there. So, well,
Yep.
There's no bonus points for leading a lap, but hey, at least you had that one lap led. It felt like, you know, this was the kind of race that could potentially start a late season charge for you in the AM class standings. What's your take on that?
Oh man, got 3 podiums in the last 3 weeks, and never expected myself to do that with how much time I have to practice, being 15 years old in high school and playing sports. So it feels great.
Well, that's actually quite incredible. What sports do you play in high school?
I'm a football player.
All right. Well, we'll have to watch your career with great interest. This has been quite a show from you in iRacing. I feel like when I was 15, I couldn't even keep a car on track in any simulator. So well done there. What do you feel like, you know, your strengths going forward as the season progresses and into next year will be to hopefully compete continuously at a high level?
And I have no idea. I mean, I feel like I've been doing all right in the rain so far, so there's some more rain races. I'm looking forward to those.
How long have you been iRacing?
About 2 years, 2 years on iRacing, but probably 3 years on just simulators in general.
All right, Nathan. Well, who makes it work for you? Anyone you'd like to thank?
Man, thanks to my spotters and also fellow PRL racers, Will and Jake. And thanks, Mom, for buying me this cockpit.
Thanks to Nathan's mom for the cockpit. Congratulations, Nathan, on the AM win tonight.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Reese, I can't believe how good he is, and he's only 15 years old.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy there for Nathan Jennings. And yeah, big congratulations on the AM class win for him there. Well, we're going to leave the rain behind and move our way through into the GT3 Sprint Series, the Open Setup Series, of course, running the same schedule as the Fixed Series at the Red Bull Ring this week, Mount Panorama, and then the Nürburgring to end off the season. And here in the AM standings, it is a dead heat between Chris Long and Louis Grulon, with Rich Calais and Richard Saavedra not too far behind, also equal on points.
The biggest thing for Louis Grulon is really the fact that he's had 2 races with 0 points. One was a did not start, did not get to, and one that was a DNF. So if we look at the races both he and Chris Long have competed in with each other, I think you'd find that Grulon had a bit of a better average points per race, but you got to be there at the end to score points. So it's advantage Chris Long in that aspect in terms of just being there for the race checkered flag. This really can go anywhere. Rich Calais also has had 2 races scoring 0 points. So really, it might be a Calais and Grulon kind of season, but if Chris Long can keep that consistency up, it could be big for the AM class.
Certainly could. Let's talk about the pros briefly here. Garibaldi is the one on top, and with just 3 rounds to go, the gap to Boris Ovando potentially not surmountable unless Baldi has a couple of bad results. Remember, the points awarded per position, only a point separating each position in the PRL points scheme. But Ovando is going to have to keep an eye out for Daniel Krasowski in 3rd spot. Further down, we see a dead heat between Alan and Crisp for 7th and 8th, and David Mendonca not too far behind. Mendonca getting on the podium at Sebring and having a fantastic time there, rocketing himself up into the top 10.
Kind of a similar situation to what we were just talking about with the AM standings, with Boris Avando and Daniel Krzyzewski both having 2 races where they've come out of it scoring 0 points, whether they just did not race in it or they did not finish the race. 0 points for them, 1 drop week. Actually, in the sprint series, there are 2 drop weeks. That's something important to note. There were some technical issues in the Monza round, so they gave everybody 2 drop weeks, meaning that your 2 worst results in the sprint series are completely gone. They are nullified, meaning that out of 6 rounds, only 4 of them are counting at this point, and they only have 2 more races to potentially change their drop week, depending on how it goes as we take a look at the team standings.
Yeah, Precision Racing Esports Blue, that's Boris Avando and his compatriots, Daniel Krzyzewski, among them, way ahead of the SCR Old Men team, 30 points further back, Precision Racing Silver. At this point, not much is going to change in the team standings up the top, but things might get a little bit leery between the Scuderia Ferrari Esports team and Alianza GPVA. I believe the Ferrari Esports team is what Gergo Baldi is driving for, and yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see how that shakes out.
Yeah, and that's not with any drop weeks associated with that. Gergo Baldi is the only driver scoring points for the Scuderia in this championship. And speaking about Gergo Baldi, how about that? In dry conditions this time out, has currently the pole. And if we want to take a look at this time versus the in-race lap times we were seeing, it's pretty much like 17 seconds faster, is it, give or take?
Yeah, something like that. It's just ridiculous, the pace difference between dry and wet, even, you know, at a track like Red Bull Ring, where there aren't that many turns to negotiate compared to other racetracks, but so much more speed to be carried through here. Daniel Krzyzewski is currently in 2nd spot. We keep an eye on him as he makes his way through the middle part of the circuit and across the curbs, which we will see the drivers using for a change in these dry conditions. Red Bull Ring is one of those circuits with nice, wide, flat Formula 1 style curbs, especially on corner exit. You want to use as much of them as you can.
Yeah, and it's not really as dangerous now as compared to where we just were watching these drivers race in the fixed series in the wet. You can put your entire car almost on the curbs at this track and move into the corner with a lot more speed on the apex. It's pretty much the ideal spot. You want to take as much of the curb as possible here. It's not like the Nürburgring, where we'll go to in just a couple of weeks' time, where the curbs, you want to use them, but they're dangerous and the suspension's got to be soft. The curbs are pretty low here.
Indeed they are. Let's see if Ovando can improve on 3rd place on his final qualifying lap. The checkered flag is already out, nice and smooth in the Precision Racing Esports Porsche. Juan Lemus has made a late improvement up to 6th, puts Mateus Carvalho down to 7th spot. Ovando widening the entry into Jochenried curve and use all of the curb between these 2 turns. Keep up the speed, don't run too far into the red runoff area, otherwise you'll get an off track. Is this the improvement that Ovando is hoping for? Oh, it's not. He's out by 0.5 of a second. So now we keep our eyes on the last few drivers setting their qualifying times. Juan Malagon trying to improve on 10th spot right now, 1:29.4 the time to beat here, and he's on the verge of it. Just need to nail the exit here. Maybe putting a wheel off there, and that might invalidate the lap right at the end. We'll have to wait and see. But, wow, 0.07 of a second improvement on lap time. And, yeah, looks to me like, unfortunately, he didn't quite get the improvement he needed. So now we just wait for the last 2 cars.
Yeah, and that was a solid lap until the very last corner there, and that's, you know how it works here at the Red Bull Ring. You want to be greedy, but you can't be too greedy, because then you get your lap time invalidated. The time of this race, by the way, once we do get through Chase Wilson's attempt here, is going to be a 40-minute affair. The fuel tank has a little bit more that it can hold, and this race, and compared to the last race, as Chase Wilson
Oy.
loses it and says hello to that inside barrier and goodbye to his front hood.
Indeed, and goodbye to the qualifying session as well, because Chris Song, I don't think is going to be able to get his final lap, and he tries to go for the pit lane, but the session will tick over right here, and we can go into the race session and the grid for this next round of PRL GT3 Sprint. On pole position, the 113 of Gergo Baldi for the Scuderia Ferrari esports team starts alongside Daniel Krasowski with Ovando and Marc-Andre Garon on the second row. Martin Crisp and Juan Lemus are going to round out the top 6. Mateus Carvalho and David Mendonca 7th and 8th. The top 10 rounded out by Abner Acosta and Juan Malagon. And then Nani Tavares and Fernando Jaquez will round out our top 12, Dylan.
Yeah, Kevin Cantonio going to be in 13th alongside fellow privateer driver Chris Seong in 14th. Ray Dominguez and Luis Grillon in 15th and 16th. Not good enough for Grillon, really. And 17th is Oliver Rodriguez Santos, and Diego Ayer starts alongside him in row 9. Chase Wilson, we saw his spin at the end of his attempted final qualifying lap at the end, with Keith Maines rounding out the top 20 drivers. Miles Brown and Chris Long as well. Horrible qualifying for where he wants himself to be in the AM Class Championship. Artie Mercedes and Jason Allen, your top 12 rows on track.
Yeah, it's a big gap there between Grullon and Long. Ethan Bass in the Ford is going to start alongside Chris Stewart. Sean Murphy and Kyle Colbert, 27th, 28th. Our top 30 rounded out by Rich Calais and Douglas Corey. Only 3 more cars on the grid with Jason Hodgson, Devin Brock, and Richard Savadra rounding out our field. Every driver setting a time in qualifying. This is going to be a very interesting race. At the moment, Gergo Baldi, it seems, is the man to beat on raw pace, but you look behind him. I mean, it's a 2/10 gap from pole to second place, but the rest of the top 5 only covered by, I'd say, 1.5 tenths, so I'm looking forward to a good race here.
Yeah, and this is all open setup, so these drivers have been able to fine-tune the performance of their vehicles to their liking and their team's liking as well. A lot of the drivers in this field, at least the faster ones, have all chosen to go with the Ferrari 296 machine, but there are some Porsches hanging around in the top 10 as well.
There are indeed. Let's get ourselves going to the start-finish line for PRL GT3 Sprint here on RaceSpotTV. What a race it was in the fixed series. Let's see if the open series will provide the same kind of action. Baldi was trying to warm his tires a little more on the way to the line. Same for Krasowski, but on the power Baldi gets. And we are through into turn 1 as the green flag flies. Martin Crisp and Juan Lemus going side by side on the way into turn 1. And Lemus will get into the top 5. There's some small chaos happening further back, but everyone works themselves out through the first turn. Boris Ovando already looking aggressive, doing some final weaving on the way down to the hairpin as he tries to chase down Krasowski and keep Garon behind him.
An expected better start than the last race in dry conditions as they all pile into turn 3 and the run down the hill into turn 4. Baldi, Krasowski, Ovando, your top 3.
And they aren't letting each other get away too much. Our top 4 pretty compressed, and Juan Lemus is hanging around there in the background. That white and red Ferrari you saw flash across the screen before the camera changed. Here is how things stand at the moment, coming halfway around the first lap. Half a second lead for Gergo Baldi, and it seems like he's pretty comfortable there to start things off.
Yeah, quite comfortable for the pole sitter as we watch the battle between Tavares and Jaquez in 11th and 12th. These two drivers, same team, trying to make it work around each other, but there's still a lot of attacking going on behind.
Yeah, plenty of attacking. Look at the pack behind these guys. Tavares and Jacques have got Crisson for company, and Kevin Cantonio in the 711 liveried Ferrari, who had a very interesting race at Sebring. He was running in the top 5, was Cantonio, but unfortunately not able to get the result he wanted, and he's even further down now. Clean runs through turn 1 for a lot of these guys. And for the time being, we have to wait to see if there's any big incidents. We might get one here right now. The number 14 of Luis Grullon is at the front here, but 3 wide on the way behind, and that is contact for Oliver Rodriguez-Santos. He almost got ricocheted between Ray Dominguez and Keith Maines, but they worked themselves out.
More pinballing between some of the drivers in the mid-pack and some flashing of the headlights to try and distract competition in front. That's it's not really, I would say, frowned upon as strongly as that, but it's not the most sportsman behavior when they're just racing with drivers. Hey, but you got to use every advantage you can when it's not against the rules.
Ethan Bass, meanwhile, just making his way past Artie Mercedes. Ethan Bass, of course, a Ford diehard, and one of the only Fords in this field at the moment, if not the only Ford. We do have a couple of reps in the old Ford GT. Mark Kalin, of course, was taking part in the fixed series earlier tonight, and Bass trying his best to get some positions. He's already up 2 from where he started, so things are looking successful for the moment for the Orbit Motorsports driver. End of the second lap, and Gergo Boldi maintaining his lead, even extending it out to a second now.
Yeah, that's not surprising. Top 4 all running in the Ferrari. The Porsche Boris Ovando, the number 22 machine. In 5th, the first non-Ferrari car in this field. A bit squirrely over the turtle at the exit of turn 1. You know, it's not the easiest first corner, even though it's a very tight apex, right? In one way, it opens up quite big. You got to hit it at a specific spot to carry all the speed up the hill into that turn 2 kink, and turn 3 is that very acute right-hander.
Indeed. Right on board with Juan Malagon as he chases down the PRE pair of Abner Acosta and David Mendonca, of course, for 2 different sub-teams, but part of the same stable. And this Ferrari is looking pretty quick at the moment. Malagon, one of quite a few drivers in this field who's occupying the same position he started in. Our top 2 haven't changed position, and everyone from Carvalho to Jacques, that's 7th to 12th, also in the same position they started. Same for Luis Grullon, who's the AM class 2nd place right now. Diego Ere has actually gotten the leg up there in the AM class battle, up 3 spots. Krasowski, meanwhile, setting the fastest lap of the race so far, and he's going to try and chase down Gergo Boldi from here.
He's going to try to, but right now, over a second in behind Baldi. It's not looking good at the start of this race, as we see going a little bit too heavy on the throttle right there. Looked like it was Diego Ere, and he is the AM class leader in 15th position. So just goes to show you how good some of these drivers are in the pro class. As a quick reminder, it's all about iRating, as we see almost bumper cars on the exit of turn 3. It's based on iRating. Anyone above 3,000 iRating is classified with the pro status. Meanwhile, it's 1,000 to 2,999. That is AM status.
Indeed it is, and we check out one of those AM class drivers, Miles Brown. He's chasing down a pro, Keith Maines, and oh dear, that's a bit too deep there. The momentum transfer once again not favoring the car behind. Miles Brown in the gravel trap. He's going to have to wait for a gap there, and he reoccupies the racetrack safely, but he won't be too happy with how that's gone down. Artie Mercedes, meanwhile, has gone around in the Porsche at roughly the same location. We saw Miles Brown there, just making his way past. What on earth happened to Artie? Looks like it was further contact between himself and the 15 of Chris Stewart, but that's not going to be on the minds of our leaders. They've got a race to run.
Yeah, they have a race to run, and Baldi just extended his lead by 4/10 there at that last lap, and that was a bit naughty by the car on the outside there with Miles Brown. Maybe squeezed him out of room. Couldn't quite see from that angle, though, how much room was there and how close they were as they entered the corner.
It was a bit of an aggressive dive from Brown, I'll say that. Meanwhile, here's Artie Mercedes getting tapped by Chris Stewart, and that is definitely on the car passing.
Yeah, you gotta be alongside at a very fair point to be able to stick the car still in there. There's, different series and different types of racing disciplines have different rules for what side-by-side means. If you've got your front wheels in line with the rear wheels of car in front, a lot of series will classify that, most series, as you are not alongside. Maybe in, obviously stock car racing, oval racing, and I guess NASCAR and road courses, that's something different. But in every bit of open wheel and sports car racing, you're not alongside at that point. You've got to give position a little bit up, sliding through a final corner. Oh, right in front of some of the big pack.
That's Keith Maines in the worst possible spot. Oh dear. Oh, that was so close there. Miles Brown having to take very quick avoiding action. Man, that's a blind corner, mate. That's so dangerous to have a spin there. But it looks like everyone's gotten through without much incident. It has closed up a few of these battles. It's probably flustered a few of these drivers too.
Certainly, I think some of these drivers are a little bit more on edge now after seeing that happen right in front of most of them. Abner Acosta currently running a 9th, not too bad for the driver of the number 5 Porsche machine. Abner Acosta, one of the most decorated drivers in all of Precision Racing League history himself. He's got 15 victories in GT competition. We got a replay here. Just losing it, carrying way too much speed through that penultimate corner. Gets clipped there barely, but that's the only bit of contact.
Yeah, everyone else had their eyes on stalks, avoiding him there. Probably took a few off tracks, and that will tighten their incident points budget a little bit, which is not the best thing around the Red Bull Ring. It's very easy to get off track 1Xs here, and if you're new to iRacing competition, a lot of series place an incident limit on the drivers, and they'll have to make sure they don't get too many, otherwise they'll get a drive-through penalty. This is Devin Brock here making his way through and taking that avoiding action. A little bit of contact as well, and I think that'll bring him closer to potentially getting a drive-through penalty for too many incidents.
That's never fun, as we see some more bumper cars here. A 4-car accordion, it looked like, but without the sounds that these drivers would like to hear. That's the crunch that we were talking about with crunch time, right?
Yeah. One of many forms that crunch can take. Abner Acosta has got 3 Ferraris in the same team chasing him down here. That's got to be scary in the rearview mirror. You look behind, you think, oh god, they've managed to clone themselves. I'm going to have to bring out all of my skill here to defend and keep in the slipstream of my teammate David Mendonca, who's starting to jet away in 8th.
It's like the twins from The Shining, just make it the triplets.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah, triplets indeed. That's quite difficult to deal with, but Abner Acosta seems to be dealing with the pressure very nicely. And no surprise, like you said, he's one of the most decorated drivers in PRL history and is known for his road course prowess. He has run oval as well with a bit of success. Meanwhile, further back in the field, out of the final corner, side by side between Murphy and Calais, Devin Brock is making his way through too. And on the outside to turn 1, that's going to be difficult to pull off. He's going to have to fall in behind and potentially get it done at the hairpin. Rich Calais has had to, he's had to compromise himself on the the exit a little there, so this might be the move that Devin Brock needs.
As a reminder, as he looks down to the inside, Calais did not defend at all. Is going to rely on the outside momentum. A bit of contact there as a car slides and spins off just in front of these drivers. It's Rodriguez Santos who loses some positions right there. You know, I was about to say, we have to remember the AM class is... doesn't really matter where you finish in the AM class as much as the overall standings of this race. That's where you get the points.
Yeah, indeed. AM and Pro are not scored separately. It's where you finish overall that defines how many points you get. Now, that problem for Oliver Rodriguez Santos was caused by contact with Chase Wilson on the exit of the hairpin. We might get a view of that later, but we'll have to keep our eyes peeled on this battle here as Abner Acosta continues to try and hold off the advance from Malagon, Taveras and Jacques. This is the onboard view here from Santos and just gets tapped around on the exit.
I would not be happy right there if I was Rodriguez Santos.
Big shame. Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled for any big moves being made. No one has come into the pits just yet. We've got plenty of time left in the race. We're expecting around the halfway point for drivers to start coming into the lane. The number 22 of Boris Ovando still holding on to a position in the top 5, but he's had a bit of a rough go of it. Remember, he started in 3rd, and he could potentially fall another position considering the pace that Martin Crispa's got on board that car. A 10th faster than Ovando on the last lap.
Yeah, lots of speed right there for Martin Crisp, but Mateus Carvalho is closing in as well. And to be quite honest with you, I could see anybody from the top 14 really competing for a spot within the top 5 as this race continues to go on. Lots of drivers under a California king-size blanket right now.
Yeah, you could certainly toss a blanket over them and they'd all be nice and warm as we see, I think, our first goer towards the pits there. Looks like Nene Taveras that has made his way in. So first of our top group to blink. He's going to be going long in the second stint of the race. We'll see how that works out for him.
Yeah, it's going to be quite important to see where these drivers kind of end up after pit stops. And quite early to go now as this is a battle still in the lead lap. Goodness, it's been great all throughout the field.
Yeah, certainly has. We've had some very intense battles on the exit of the hairpin. Meanwhile, Ferrari versus Ferrari. I'm presuming it's Diego Ere and Luis Grulon. No, it's Ferrari versus Porsche. My apologies. Rear wing looked a little bit the same there. And the Ferrari a little bit taller than I expected too. The Porsche tends to tower over a couple other cars, but you see that Grulon is on the headlight flash. He wants to get past Diego Ere. Remember, these guys are fighting for the AM class lead.
It was very General Grievous, Anakin Skywalker-like of you. do you understand the reference? Okay, understood.
Not quite, but
okay.
I'll any prequel references I'll endorse.
Well, yeah, okay, copy. I'm just gonna let it go. We're gonna let it roll with this awkwardness. Just. I am the definition of...
Oh, I think I get it now. Yeah, I just... The pieces click together in my head. I get it now.
Okay.
As Chris Song pits from the midfield. You're shorter than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep, that's the one.
If you had our cameras on, you'd see my face beat red right now.
Look, it's all part of the Reese Gardner experience. Race broadcast isn't complete without a little bit of cringe. Anyway, keep our eyes on these fights. Abner Acosta and David Mendonca still at the head of this train. One of the CRT Ferraris has jumped out and into the pits here, but Jacques and Malagon still trying to pressure Acosta in the number 5.
Yeah, trying to do it right now, but we'll see how long it does last here because remember, we're talking about it, right? Pit stops are coming for the field very quickly. It's expected to be a 27-lap race. They're 11 laps into it, so we expect somewhere around 3-ish laps from now, most of the field to have already gone down into pit lane, but I'm sure some will leave it till very late so they can run no longer to get the shortest pit in and pit during and out time that they possibly can have. We do expect that.
Yeah, that we do. It seems like, yeah, not much else still happening in this battle. It's just waiting with bated breath, I suppose, to see who blinks first in the pit cycle. I am noticing that I believe it's Mateus Carvalho is having some technical issues from time to time and is disappearing a little bit. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But for the time being, everyone's still continuing on as per usual. Gergo Baldi has extended his lead now to over 4 seconds over Daniel Krasowski. It seems like, you know, once Baldi gets into the lead of a race, he just doesn't look back. It's almost Hamilton or Verstappen-like, how he's just jetting away from the front of this field.
Hamilton and Verstappen-like. Unfortunately, it hasn't been that way for Hamilton for quite a few years at this point.
Indeed. I'm extending it to sort of less recent history as well. I mean, you could throw Michael Schumacher in there as well.
Yeah,
in 2004, for example. If you know, I mean, Gergo Baldi is driving a Ferrari for Ferrari. So
and Hamilton will soon be driving for the Scuderia. You know, very soon.
Will indeed. Yeah, I couldn't believe that news when it came out.
The rumors went to official confirmation like that. But that is very fun when it happens.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely love the behind-the-scenes drama in a lot of series. Not so much in sim racing, which is why I stick to the commentary and keeping an eye on the drivers into the hairpin. This battle shows no signs of slowing down. In fact, the Ferraris are starting to gain here on Abner Acosta. He's still dealing with the pressure, but I'm wondering when he's going to crack.
It's got to come soon, right? You'd think that, but it's Abner Acosta. He's just around 6 or 7 wins away from, in the PRL Cup Series, from having the most wins all time there, and he's 4th all time in GT wins in the PRL GTE and GT3 series history. So the dude's fast. Put him in any car and he's going to be fast. He knows how to deal with the pressure. We've seen him crack under the pressure a few times in the Cup Series in recent races, but still Abner doing a very solid job of holding on to 9th, and he's having a race defensively right now as we see the battle for 2nd has really heated up as Baldi has just run away with this race.
Yeah, I get the feeling that these three are slowing each other up a little in their fight. I have to wonder, should Krasowski pit roundabout now and you know, get a fresh set of rubber on the car and push hard to the end is the big question. I mean, the tyres on GT3s tend to last quite some time. I wouldn't expect most drivers to change tyres, just top up the fuel really, but you never know. Could take the risk, put some fresh tyres on and you know, pull on your Sonic, gotta go fast. We'll have to wait and see on that. But for now, Krasowski holding strong versus Marc-Andre Garon and Juan Lemus. Meanwhile, Oliver Rodriguez Santos, who we saw unfortunately tapped around earlier, has come into the pits. It's been a very difficult race for Santos thus far.
Yeah, and it's the kind of race where you just want to forget about it. Oliver Rodriguez Santos running in the AM class is going to lose a lot of points that he could have potentially had on offer. Really, none of the AM drivers are really showing up in big ways in this race, as we're about to show a bit of replay of what happened here. And
Douglas Corey. Oh no, that's the exit of turn 1.
No good, and there's another driver involved there. No good from the attacking driver. Don't come onto the track. Don't do it.
Oh.
Don't do it.
Got to be very careful on the re-entries at Red Bull Ring. A lot of corner exits are blind and with a lot of elevation change involved. So, yeah, if you don't exit onto the track nice and straight, then you're putting yourself in a spot of bother, not to mention the drivers coming up on you.
Yes, and I would say that's pretty much the truth at any racetrack. Be careful with your re-entry. It's easier at other tracks, necessarily more than the Red Bull Ring. For example, go off turn 3 there, you can get back up to speed on the runoff area.
Indeed you can. You don't get the same luxury down here at the Roush hairpin as Ovando and co move through. Mendonca making his way through the corner as well. Nothing but gravel on the exit of that turn. Love the Red Bull Ring. It's interesting that you know, the way Red Bull Ring has been perceived. Of course, it started off as the Österreich Ring back in the 1960s, and it was a classic, very fast circuit modified in the mid-90s by Hermann Tilke for Formula One. And it was actually the first Tilke circuit that Formula One ever had, and it didn't get a very good reaction at the time. But I find it ironic that after a break, when it came back to Formula One in 2014, people were hailing it as the return of a classic.
You know, it's funny to me that it's been 10 years since it returned to Formula One competition, and a lot of people are excited, especially with the higher speeds that this V6 turbo era brought in the mid-2010s to late 2010s, and we got close to really close to almost 1 minute lap times here, which is always exciting to see.
Yeah, indeed. Here comes Malagon. Abner Acosta defensive, and we'll squeeze him a little bit on the outside, but staying level is Juan Malagon. Again, using the outside line at the hairpin. Flatter run through, more stable platform. Will he be able to get it done here at Roush? Later on the brakes, keeps it up to the apex, but Acosta comes across him and into the gravel trap. Juan Malagon versus Abner Acosta ends in tears.
Oh, that's a shame for Abner Acosta, who was trying to defend the move right there, and it just did not work out. We'll get a replay in just a few moments, but that's a loss of 5 positions in one corner for the driver of the 5 Porsche.
Yeah, oh man, and there's no cautions in this series, so he won't even have a chance to catch up under safety car. That's a real shame. Acosta falling back down to 14th place, and considering that he was already facing a lot of pressure in that battle, I get the feeling he won't be able to make up many more. Here's a replay of it. So round he goes, and yeah, it's just a case of, I mean, I think Acosta had the right to take the racing line there, but there was still a bit of overlap.
I think it was more overlap than would necessarily have been penalized. You know, I think they were side by side for a good bit of that corner, and Abner wanted all the space, but to me, it's a racing incident.
Yeah, I would say the same. We're about to enter the final 15 minutes of this race, and we haven't had very many drivers come into the pits. Chris Song is the leader of the cars that have pitted. That's the onboard from the Ferrari. I don't know how much more of a story that tells.
Yeah, it's already at the end of the corner when Abner was trying to be quite defensive there, and just hard to necessarily say from the. I would say it was on edge. It was on edge, but it was side by side midway through the corner.
Yeah, indeed.
Juan Lima.
Speaking of cars pitting, I've just gone back to check Nane Tavares. Remember, we saw he was the first car to come into the pits. I actually think that might have been a penalty, if not, you know, something a little bit extra, because he spent 48 seconds in the lane, or in the box rather, and that tells me he might have sped on pit entry. Meanwhile, it looks like Kevin Cantonio has decided to make his way into the lane, battling for almost a position inside the top 10.
Yeah, that's That's an interesting move right there. And you've got to imagine in the next couple laps, everyone's going to be coming into the pits, right? Which could change the positions we currently see as the final 2 spots on the podium.
Yeah, this is the question. Which of this group is going to pit first, and is pitting earlier or later the way to go in this battle? I would think that if you're the trailing car in the pack, as that was a little bit of an oversteer moment for Krasowski, recovers it. I think those tires are starting to fall past their best. He might want to come in this lap, but I think that Juan Lemus in the 33 at the back of this pack would be best placed to pit earlier. He'd be able to leapfrog these two potentially if he gets a good enough run through, but none of them going for the lane as of yet. The telltale sign is them going a little bit slower through the penultimate corner.
Yeah, that's going to be the tell here. And whoever does bite first, I almost feel like if you want to bite first, you shouldn't be necessarily Daniel Krasowski. I think Marc-Andre Garon or Juan Lemus is going to have to be that one that comes into the pits first here. Just, you know, it breaks them up from this battle. It gives them some free space as Juan Malagon and Luis Grullon have gone into pit lane.
Indeed. AM class leader for a time, Luis Grullon, into the lane, and his pit stop's a little bit longer than we expected. Most pit stops, well, actually, it looks like it's around about what we expected. Most pit stops have been running about 9 to 10 seconds. Looks like Malagon is the outlier, 7.5 second pit stop. So I don't know if he's going to have the fuel to get to the end, but he's certainly trying to get track position by putting less fuel in.
Yeah, it's a good move to stay out as long as possible, but how much are you really going to gain by another lap or two here? I guess a good bit. Juan Malagon will save 2.2 seconds in the pit box and 2 seconds overall in pit lane versus Kevin Cantonio, and obviously that's a major part of why Malagon is in front of Cantonio right now.
Yeah, 2 second quicker pit stop will pay dividends out on track, at least in the short term. We'll have to see how that works out for them. We're about to enter the final 11 minutes of the race, and we still have the vast majority of the field yet to come into the lane for service. Diogo Boldi looks as comfortable as ever out in front right now. And Diego Ere, it looks like, is going to respond from the AM class lead. Let's see where he comes out relative to Luis Grullon.
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting right here, especially how much time Ere spends in the pits. That's 8.3 seconds in his box, so not the fastest, not the slowest, bang on average for this amount of time left in the race.
Yeah, looks like he's going to come out nicely. Out of pit lane, back onto the track. Nicely done. A little bit less momentum now for Diego Ere, but he has come out ahead of Grullon, which is very crucial. Wow, look at that. 1.5 second quicker pit stop from Diego Ere, but Grullon was quicker through the pit lane, interestingly. So let's see how this battle works out between them.
It's a whole shot victory if I've ever seen one. Drag racing?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not much of a drag racing follower myself, but our leader has come in, and it looks like most of our top 4 have responded, but Marc-Andre Garon is going to go out for one more lap here. Mendonca, Jacques are going to come in too. Let's see if Acosta and Bass decide to do the same. Oh no. Lemus overshooting his pit box there, Dylan. That is going to cost him a bit there.
Yeah, that's going to cost him more than a little bit. We'll see what the overall pit lane time is. Lemus, 28.8 seconds in the pits. We look at Krasowski's 27.2. It's a second and a half around that he lost, and that is potentially the difference between getting the positions and losing out on maybe anything from in behind.
Yeah, well, he's a long way behind now, isn't he? And he might fall into the clutches of other cars that haven't pitted yet. And speaking of cars that haven't pitted yet, we've only got 4 of them. Garon, Ovando, Crisp, and Carvalho. This will be an interesting conclusion to the race. Meanwhile, the fight's still ongoing here for the effective AM class lead between Diego Ere and Luis Grullon, and there's contact maybe between them. Diego Ere at least having to recover the car from a little squiggle, little slide. Ethan Bass is right there with them too.
Oh gosh, I love how hectic the end of this race is shaping up to be. Right on the rear bumper, Luis Grullon. There was no contact, but he let him know he was there.
Indeed. Just trying to psych him out as Garon, Ovando, and Crisp jump into the pit lane. Carvalho, meanwhile, continues to stay out. Looks like Mateos is trying to run a little light here on track before he puts his final fuel load in. Let's see how much this gains him, if anything.
Yeah, I wonder. We see... Oh, that's unfortunate if that's continuous internet issues there. That's not the way you'd like this race to kind of lead to the end. Marc-Andre Garon was in the pits for 21 seconds, did that say?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like maybe he erroneously took tires. That's the only clue I would have to why Marc-Andre Garon has fallen down the order so much.
Yeah, that's quite curiosity-inducing right there. But Juan Lemus and Boris Ovando are fighting right now for P4 in the race, but potentially this is the final step of the podium when Mateus Carvalho comes down pit lane.
Indeed. Remember that Lemus overshot his pit box, and that is the main reason Ovando has been able to get past him in the pit cycle. Ovando's pit stop, 7.6 seconds, and it looks like a second slower stop for Juan Lemus, who was also 3 seconds slower through the pit lane. So it's the main reason why you see the Porsche ahead of the Ferrari at the moment. Final 7 minutes of the race, and it'll be all up to Ovando to try and keep Lemus behind. He wants that position back, and finally the field is cleansed. Mateus Carvalho will pit for his last little bit of fuel. Let's see where he comes out. Boldy's already through, Krasowski's already through, Carvalho just coming out near Ovando and Lemus. He'll come out in 5th.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the worst spot to come out in. You're still running top 5. Martin Crisp, though, is hot on your tail, and Crisp's been fast in this one.
Yeah, Crisp has been doing quite well, hasn't he? His best lap is 4/10 slower than Gergo Boldy's fastest, but he's been steadily trying to work his way back up. Remember, Crisp started in the top 5, and evidently not having the best of runs through the pit lane. Lemus on board here, chasing down the 22, but Ovando, it looks like, is focusing on the exits here. The rear engine layout of the Porsche, very good when it comes to traction out of hairpins.
Yeah, it is very solid, that car, to just kind of run against each other right here. You know, the Porsche, the placement of where the engine is in the rear, it definitely changes how it feels compared to some other cars where the engine is in front of the car or anywhere else. And you know, a lot of people like the way that the Porsche feels. Not everybody likes how twitchy it can sometimes be in the corners, especially as the fuel load begins to decrease as the fuel is in the front. So it changes rapidly throughout each run, but with the Ferrari chasing that Porsche right now, it is quite interesting to see the strengths and the weaknesses of each kind of come into play here.
Yeah, certainly is. Only a lap's difference between these guys coming out of the pits too, so they're pretty equal on fuel load and tyre wear. Let's see if there's anything Juan Lemus can do to find his way past. He's gaining a little bit on corner entries, but again, Ovando with the traction coming out of the hairpins, and all the significant corners on this circuit are hairpins, and it's where you see the most action. Of course, that's in stark contrast to this final section of the lap, which is fast and flowing. And this is where the Ferrari starts to gain back a little on the Porsche. Ovando a bit wide there in the left-hander. I saw him working the wheel in the cockpit there. He's struggling for pace through this section.
Yeah, really struggling, but look at how wide on that exit that Boris Ovando got there. This is a good battle for the podium spot. I think Lemus has got him going into the second to last corner. Woo-wee! That's some good racer right there.
What a move. That was great stuff from Juan Lemus, and well done to Ovando as well for recognizing when it was over and backing out. Could have a chance to fight back here in the final 3.5 minutes of this race.
My gosh, that's it's one of the better overtakes that you will ever see at the Red Bull Ring, especially with the pressure on. I mean, this is for the final podium spot right now, and Mateus Carvalho has certainly put himself into the conversation now, only a few tenths back of this battle.
Yeah, the bit of side-by-side running has brought Carvalho into the fold. He's still suffering those brief internet issues at points around the circuit, but rest assured, he is gaining on these guys, and you never know, Martin Crisp could find his way through in the Lamborghini as well behind. Ovando now behind Lemus, and doesn't look like he has much fight left. Meanwhile, look at this fight here. The number 55 of David Mendonca having to face off against Juan Malagon and Kevin Cantonio. It is a battle of one Porsche and two Ferraris in the middle sector of the circuit, and it seems like Cantonio is the one looking to make moves.
Oh, Cantonio is very aggressive here on Juan Malagon, trying to let him know that he is right there and ready to pounce the 7-Eleven machine, and surprisingly, the number 10 car is trying to get the move done into 9th.
Yep, question is, will he be able to get it done? Jochen Rindt curve is good for the Ferrari, but a little bit wide there for Cantonio on the exit. It looks like the advantage has swung back in Malagon's favor. Slight run on David Mendonca coming into turn 1, but he's not close enough to attempt to move up the inside. And you don't really see much overtaking this late into the race into turn 1 anyway. It's the hairpins where you want to see those moves.
Yeah, the hairpins are exactly where you want to see the moves, but you'll take them any way you can possibly get them this late into the race. You see Malagon going down the inside of Mendonca and trying to do a 2-for-1 special in terms of positions lost. And just a horrible corner from David Mendonca right there. Lost 2 spots, went in way too deep.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he went as wide as he did. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world going slightly wide of the apex at that hairpin, but evidently...
A little too much.
Yeah, a little too much there. And some internet issues, I think, for Mendonca as well. That might have had something to do with it. Maybe he was a bit distracted by his latency bar going red or something to that effect.
That's not a fun feeling right here as we see battle for 24th on track, 25th, I should say, with Jason Hansen and Oliver Rodriguez Santos, who has been involved in a lot of ways in this race. They are both on the lead lap still. 29 of the 33 entered into this race are still on the lead lap, but they'll be racing side by side as Grego Baldi is on his way to another win for the Scuderia here.
Yeah, absolute domination from Diego Baldi so far. The fight could still be on for third spot with Krasowski not in the field for Juan Lemus, it seems. The AM class lead is still on as well. Diego Ere just keeping Luis Grullon behind him for 14th overall. Question is, will they be able to get to the end cleanly, or will Ethan Bass find his way past them? Will they lose positions to other AM-class cars? We'll keep our eyes on the battle for overall third, though, as out of the hairpin they come, out of Roush, and to the relative twisties on this circuit. One more pit stop for Nane Taveras, evidently not able to get to the end on fuel, just taking a splash and dash on the final lap. Doesn't look like there's much in the way of battles for the lead, though. Magnificent drive from Gergo Baldi. He's going to take the lead by over 8 seconds at the end here and win at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, just a stupendous drive from Baldi as we see all the cars come out of the last corner. One last land rush to the finish line. Carvalho tried to get P4, but is going to end up just a tad too short. Everyone else still coming across the line. Still close battles all throughout.
Indeed. Gonna get replay here of Ethan Bass. He almost found his way past Luis Grullon there, and big contact in the middle of the turn there. Yeah, very good save by Ethan Bass, but I don't think he'll be too happy with Luis Grullon, who I think was compromised a little, making a final move on Diego Ere for the AM class victory. Last few cars to come across the line now. This is a battle for 24th. Hodgson versus the recovering Santos. Let's see if there's anything that Oliver can do out of the final turn. He carries more speed. He's going to draw alongside on the way to the line. It's a drag race between the Ferrari and the Porsche, but it looks like Hodgson will just get it.
What? Look at the gap. 21
That's amazing.
thousandths it ended up being. Hey, not as close as the finish at Kansas in the NASCAR Cup Series this past weekend.
Yeah, certainly. Wow, that was a fantastic battle all the way to the end there, and side by side across the line between the Ferraris there of Tavares and Murphy, I believe, as we can go through our results with all cars now across the line. Gergo Baldi, 7.8 seconds. Magnificent drive from the Scuderia Ferrari driver. Krasowski is going to finish in second. Juan Lemus completes an all-Ferrari podium. Ovando, our first Porsche, in fourth, and then it's Ferrari land in the rest of the top 10 with Carvalho, Crisps, Jacques, Malagon, and Cantonio, with Mendonca rounding out the top 10 there, 2 positions down.
Yeah, Marc-Andre Garon will finish in 11th with Chris Soyoung. Abner Acosta rebounding to get in the 13th, not 9th as he had been running for most of this race, but we'll take 13th. Diego Ayer will get that AM class victory right there with Luis Grullon just behind him. Ethan Bass, Ray Dominguez, Chris Long, Chase Wilson, and Chris Stewart, your top 20.
Rich Calais up 8 spots to finish in 21st place. It's 10 spots gained for Devin Brock. Artie Mercedes unfortunately suffering a spin. He will finish where he started, with Jason Hodgson making it from outside the top 30 into 24th. Santos, Saavedra, Tavares, Murphy and Corey are the last drivers to finish on the lead lap, and then we get into retirement territory. Miles Brown 7 laps down. Kyle Colbert, Jason Allen, and Keith Maines could not make it to the end of the race. Maines, of course, spun near the pit entry and electing to retire. Well, that's going to conclude the racing portion of the night. We've still got to chat to our podium. First off, of course, Scuderia Ferrari Esports' Gergo Baldi. Congratulations, Gergo. Domination at the Red Bull Ring. You looked very comfortable out there.
Yeah, hello, good day, everyone. Yeah, it was everything went under control. I could break the slipstream in lap 2 or 3, and therefore it was just about pace management to keep the tires in the window and to keep the fuel consumption at the optimal level, so it was quite okayish.
Yeah, indeed it was. Good points haul for you coming into the last 2 rounds of the season. We go to Mount Panorama next. Is that a track that you tend to gel with? What are you expecting from the next round?
I love the track, and especially as there will be rain. I'm really looking forward to it. I've done some practices and I've had some game freezes then, so I hope that will be sorted out till then. But yeah, if everything will go well in terms of the reliability of the game, then I'm looking forward to it, because it will be a huge challenge for everyone. It will be fun for the spectators as well, for sure.
Indeed it will. And last question, it was only 9 points back to Boris Ovando with the 2 drop rounds in effect. Of course, you're dropping more points than Boris because his 2 drops so far are non-scores. So I guess you're hoping for consistency at the very least in the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, that's the plan. My results has been pretty consistent so far. So yeah, I just hope I can remain the same. So yeah, but Boris is very fast, so it will be crucial, you know, to score the points when it's needed.
Indeed. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Gergo Baldi, and big congratulations on an absolutely dominant victory. We'll hopefully get a chance to chat to you next round at Bathurst.
Thank you very much. I hope the same as well.
Gergo Baldi with a fantastic performance there. Also, a fantastic performance for Daniel Krasowski. Dylan Coyle has stood by with him.
Yeah, Daniel, great run, great race, second in this race, and I believe unofficially you'll be second in the championship with 2 races to go, still within a shouting distance of catching up to Gergo Baldi, but the window is closing ever so slightly out of the next 2. Bathurst and Nürburgring, where do you think your specialty will lie?
Definitely not next week when it's raining at Bathurst. I don't even know if I'll attend that, but that's news to me that I'm second in the championship. That's surprising because I did miss a couple races.
Well, it was given that 2 races now in the Sprint Series are drop weeks after some issues with connections at Monza did occur. So, hey, there you go.
Look at that. Lucky me.
Lucky you indeed. So you still have a chance at competing for this title. But it was a solid race for you. I know pit strategy late was a question mark, but after 3 drivers were kind of under a blanket, you ended up winning the 3-way battle for second there. So take us through that.
I don't know what happened. I honestly, Mark and forget who was behind Mark, but they were right on me, fuel saving. They did the extra lap, so I thought they were going to have a short pit stop. When I came out, they were gone, nowhere to be found. So I need to rewatch that stream and see what happened to them. That's very unfortunate because they probably would have came out ahead of me.
Well, I guess their problem and their mistake is your position to gain. Gotta know, Daniel, who makes it happen for you in the Precision Racing Blue team?
I like to thank my team, RaceSpot, Advanced Sim Racing, Advanced Motorsport, Racebox Sim Racing, Butt Kicker, Muradness, Mr. Hedge, and a shout out to my karting team PKM. I know they were watching this race while they're putting their karts together, getting ready for the first race next weekend. So cheers to PKM.
All right, Daniel Krasowski, congratulations on the P2 finish.
Cheers.
All right, Daniel, with a really solid run here at the Red Bull Ring, and Juan Lemus finishing 3rd and rounding out the podium. You're alongside him, Reese.
It seems that Juan Lemus has not joined us for an interview, so we might have to call it there, Dylan. Yeah, still a fantastic night of racing in the PRL GT3 series. Chaos in a wet fixed event and some fantastic drives in the dry open event. It's going to be interesting to see how the field tackles Mount Panorama Circuit in Australia. Second last round of the season happening next week, May 14th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm certainly looking forward to this one. It's technically my home round of the series. It's just a 4-hour plane ride and a 1-hour drive away.
Well, get moving.
Yep.
Get
I'm
moving.
going to start walking now. Well, we certainly hope that you'll be able to join us for what's sure to be another exciting round of PRL GT3 here on RaceSpotTV. Shout out once again to all the sponsors here at the Precision Racing League. Thank you for putting all of this together and making this happen, and thank you all around the world for watching here on RaceSpotTV. I'm Reese Gardner, Dylan Coyle alongside me, Dustin Ollis behind the scenes. We'll see you next time.